Welcome to my channel, The Good Book Tales. In today's video, we're diving into a story that's not just ancient, but hauntingly relevant. The Golden Calf. But before you think this is just another tale from history, let me ask you something. What would you do if your leader disappeared, your world felt uncertain, and fear whispered louder than faith? Would you wait, or would you turn to something? Anything to fill that silence. Imagine standing at the foot of a mountain wrapped in clouds, thunder rumbling in the distance, your leader gone for weeks, and the promises of freedom slowly fading into doubt. This isn't fiction. This was real for the people of Israel as they wandered the vast, unforgiving wilderness after escaping Egypt. They were supposed to be on their way to a promised land, guided by miracles, fire, and faith. But somewhere along that dusty path, trust turned to fear, and fear turned into something far more dangerous. At the heart of this story is Moses, a man chosen to lead an entire nation. But when he climbs Mount Sinai to meet with God and doesn't return for 40 days, the people below begin to question everything. And in that silence, they don't just break, they build. Out of gold, out of memory, out of desperation, they forge a tsoju, golden calf, an idol born from fear, not faith. And with it, they rewrite their destiny in ways they cannot yet imagine. But this isn't just a story about ancient people and golden statues. It's about us, about how we deal with uncertainty, about what we put our trust in when the world feels unstable, about how quickly we trade patience for pleasure, and how easily we forget what we once believed in. Whether it's fame, money, relationships, or technology, we all have our golden calves. As the music and dancing echo through the desert, the people below have no idea what's coming. And Moses, standing at the top of the mountain, holding the stone tablets etched by divine hands, doesn't yet know what has unfolded in his absence. But soon, everything will change. And the choices made in those hidden corners of the camp will send shockwaves that ripple through generations. In today's story, we'll explore the emotional and spiritual chaos that led to this moment, the fear of abandonment, the hunger for control, and the danger of misplaced worship. We'll meet key characters like Aaron, who despite his wisdom, caves under pressure, and a nation that quickly forgets the miracles that led them here. The golden calf isn't just a symbol, it's a mirror, reflecting what we become when we stop believing in something greater than ourselves. But just when you think you've understood the heart of this story, a twist unfolds, one that not only threatens the people's future, but tests the very soul of their leader. Because what Moses sees when he descends from the mountain isn't just betrayal, it's something far worse. Will he forgive them? Will he lead them forward? Or will everything fall apart under the weight of one moment of weakness? Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. The real story of the golden calf, the betrayal, the consequences, and the redemption starts now. As the dust swirled in the dry desert wind, the people gathered restlessly near the base of Mount Sinai. It had been over a month since Moses had climbed the mountain. Day after day passed, and still there was no sign of him. The fire and thunder that once crackled at the mountain's peak now felt more like a threat than a sign of hope. The excitement that once filled their hearts had faded into silence, and in that silence came doubt. Many had followed Moses with dreams of freedom. He was the man who challenged Pharaoh, the one who stretched out his hand and parted the Red Sea. They had seen miracles, felt the earth tremble beneath them, and walked through waters they were never meant to survive. But people forget quickly, and fear doesn't wait for facts. It creeps in, whispering questions. What if he's gone? What if we were wrong? What if we're alone out here and no one is coming to help us anymore? Aaron, Moses' own brother, had been left in charge. He was respected, familiar, a voice of calm during difficult moments. But even leaders can feel pressure when surrounded by panic. The crowd grew louder. They demanded answers. They wanted something they could see, something they could hold. "Make us a god," they said. "Something we can follow. Something we can trust." And so Aaron gave in. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he just wanted to quiet the rising storm in front of him. Whatever his reasons, he asked the people to bring their gold, the earrings from their wives, sons, and daughters, and melted it down. From that gold, shaped by human hands, he formed a calf, a golden calf. And when it was done, they didn't hesitate. They celebrated, they danced, they feasted, they declared, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." The people who had once feared slavery more than anything now feared silence even more, and in that fear they gave their loyalty to an idol, a statue made from the very treasure they were given when they left Egypt. The gold meant to remind them of freedom was now the symbol of their fall. But up on the mountain, something else was happening. Moses wasn't just waiting. He was speaking with the divine. He was being given the commandments that would shape a new nation. But he had no idea what was happening below. Not yet. And when he finds out, nothing will ever be the same again. High on Mount Sinai, Moses stood in a sacred moment, holding the stone tablets etched with divine words, commandments meant to guide a people into a new kind of freedom. He didn't know that while he was receiving laws about loyalty, worship, and justice, the very people he was leading were breaking all of them. The weight of those stones in his hands was nothing compared to the weight of what was happening below. And as God spoke, there was a sudden shift in tone, a warning, a revelation. The people had turned away. Down in the camp, the golden calf glowed under the desert sun. Music echoed, laughter rang out, and what began as fear had turned into wild celebration. It wasn't just dancing, it was chaos dressed up as joy. The people didn't just want a new God, they wanted to forget. Forget the fear, forget the waiting, forget the uncertainty. For a moment, the golden calf gave them that illusion. But illusions never last. Some in the crowd hesitated. A few, like Joshua, Moses' loyal companion, sensed that something was wrong. He had stayed partway up the mountain, waiting for Moses, caught between two worlds. He could hear distant sounds from below, but he didn't yet know what they meant. And among the people, a quiet tension built for those who still remembered the fire on the mountain, the voice that once spoke from the cloud. But their voices were drowned out by the noise. Aaron watched the scene unfold, his face tight with unease. Maybe he had thought this would calm them, buy time. But now, the thing he made had taken on a life of its own. He knew Moses would return. The question was, what would happen when he did? And more importantly, who would still be standing when the dust settled? The sky darkened as Moses began his descent from the mountain, the stone tablets heavy in his hands, not just with the weight of laws, but with the burden of a people's future. The air was thick with tension. The once hopeful murmurs of a free nation had been replaced by uneasy whispers and distant echoes of wild celebration. From up high, Moses could see smoke rising from the camp. His heart sank. Something had gone terribly wrong. As he drew closer, the noise grew louder, drums pounding, voices shouting, the clatter of feet moving in reckless abandon. The golden calf stood at the center, gleaming defiantly against the dusk. Men and women danced around it, their faces flushed with excitement, but beneath the surface was a deep unrest. They were no longer the hopeful travelers Moses had left behind. They were a people caught between desperation and defiance. Aaron stood near the idol, his expression unreadable but heavy with guilt. He knew this moment was coming. He had felt the shift, the breaking of trust, but hadn't known how to stop it. Around him the crowd surged, some calling for more, others losing themselves in drink and music. The community was fracturing. Fear had turned into rebellion. Moses' footsteps quickened. Inside, his mind raced. How could this be? How could they betray everything they had seen, everything they had endured? The commandments he carried were meant to bind them together, yet here they were, tearing themselves apart. In that charged silence before confrontation, the future of the people hung by a thread. Would Moses find a way to bring them back? Or was this the moment everything would shatter forever? The tension crackled in the air like lightning, unstoppable, inevitable, and ready to explode. Moses stood at the edge of the camp, his eyes locked on the golden calf and the wild crowd surrounding it. His heart pounded, not just with anger, but with a deep, painful betrayal. The people he had led through deserts, who had witnessed miracles, had turned their backs on everything they believed in. But then, as he took a step forward, something unexpected caught his attention, something that twisted the entire story even further. From the crowd emerged a figure, not one of the common people, but someone who should have been a voice of reason, a leader, a voice of guidance. It was Joshua, Moses' trusted aide, but he wasn't stepping forward to stop the chaos. Instead, his eyes flickered with doubt and hesitation, as if caught between loyalty to Moses and the overwhelming pressure of the people. The tension between the two men was unspoken but electric, hinting at cracks forming deeper than anyone could have imagined. Suddenly, a murmur spread through the camp. Some of the elders began to question Aaron openly, their whispers sharp and accusing. Had he really just given in to the people's demands? Had his fear cost them everything? What Moses didn't expect was the crowd turning, not just against their God, but against their own leaders. The golden calf had become a symbol, not of hope, but of rebellion and division. As Moses' gaze hardened, he saw others moving toward the calf, their faces wild with desperation, reaching out to touch it, as if it held the power to save them. But it was a false promise. The golden calf was a lie, shiny, seductive, but empty beneath the surface. Then came the quietest moment, before the storm broke. Moses realized this wasn't just a crisis of faith. It was a crisis of leadership. If he tried to regain control now, would the people listen? Or had the cracks in their faith and loyalty grown too wide? The scene was set for a confrontation that would not only challenge Moses' authority, but question the very future of the people. The golden calf wasn't just an idol made of gold. It was a symbol of their deepest fears and failures. And as the night closed in, Moses faced a choice: to confront a nation lost in chaos or to watch everything fall apart. The next moments would change everything, but for now, the camp was silent, holding its breath before the inevitable. Moses took a deep breath, steadying himself as the noise of the camp swirled around him like a storm on the edge of breaking. Every eye was on him now, some filled with fear, some with defiance, others with desperate hope. He knew the moment had come to act. With a force born of years guiding his people through hardship and faith, he stepped forward and raised the stone tablets high. The clatter of silence fell over the crowd like a sudden hush in the desert wind. Then, with a strength that surprised even himself, Moses brought the tablets crashing down onto the ground. The stones shattered, sending dust and shards across the dry earth. Gasps echoed through the crowd. This was no gentle warning. It was a statement, a breaking point. The laws meant to unite them, to protect them, had been broken by their own hands. Turning swiftly, Moses faced Aaron, his voice steady but heavy with disappointment. "What have you done?" he asked. Aaron's silence spoke volumes, the guilt clear in his eyes. But Moses wasn't finished. He commanded the people to gather, to step away from the calf, to remember the God who had freed them from slavery, not an idol crafted from their fears. But the people were not ready to let go so easily. Some shouted, others tried to defend the golden calf as their salvation. The camp teetered on the edge of chaos. Moses' heart ached, but his resolve was unshakable. In a final desperate act, he called for those who still believed in the true God to stand with him. The faithful stepped forward, Joshua among them, ready to restore order. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Moses wielded the broken tablets like a symbol of shattered trust, but also a chance for renewal. The golden calf was destroyed, but the deeper battle, the battle for faith and unity, was only just beginning. Just as the camp began to settle, an unexpected sound cut through the silence. A distant rumble, unlike any thunder before. The mountain trembled. From its peak, a glowing light pulsed. Not wrath, but a silent promise. The story wasn't over. The people's journey toward redemption was far from complete. And as the dust settled, all eyes turned upward, waiting for what would come next. As the glow from the mountain faded into the night sky, a calm began to settle over the camp. The chaos that had ruled just moments before was replaced by quiet reflection. Moses stood among his people, tired but determined. The golden calf was gone, shattered like the trust that had been broken. But this was also a chance to rebuild, to remember who they were and what they truly believed in. Aaron approached Moses, his shoulders heavy with regret. There were no excuses, no justifications, just the painful understanding of a leader who had faltered under pressure. Moses looked at him, not with anger, but with the weight of responsibility. They both knew the road ahead would not be easy. Trust had been shaken, faith tested, but it was not lost. Joshua, faithful and steady, stood by Moses' side, symbolizing hope for the future. Together they reminded the people of the promises they had witnessed, the parting of the sea, the protection in the wilderness, the presence of something greater than gold or idols. The true God was not a statue, but a living guide, present in every step of their journey. The people listened. Slowly, the laughter and wild celebration were replaced by prayer and quiet conversations. This was a turning point, not just a punishment for a mistake, but an invitation to grow stronger, to choose faith over fear. The golden calf had been a symbol of weakness, but the lessons learned were a reminder of resilience. Moses gathered the people and spoke about forgiveness and the importance of holding on to their faith, even when the path was unclear. He reminded them that every journey has moments of doubt, but it's how they respond that shapes their story. The mountain would call them again, and when it did, they would be ready. As dawn broke over the desert, the camp looked different. Not perfect, but hopeful. The golden calf was a warning, but also a lesson etched into their hearts. And for us today, it serves as a powerful reminder. When fear threatens to take over, when uncertainty feels overwhelming, it's faith that lights the way. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the golden calf. If this story spoke to you, hit like and subscribe for more stories that connect the past with the lessons we live today. Until next time, keep the faith and stay curious.